Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Sonic Frontiers playthrough. Sonic still has that killer case.
I was gonna say, he's just like me for real. So relatable Sonic is in this game.
So just the other day, our brain freeze tangent from last week came back to haunt me because, like, I was up late, as I usually am, and, like, the only thing there was in the house to eat that didn't require me to go out was ice cream.
Yeah.
Store brand vanilla ice cream. And, you know, I was so hungry at that point because I had forgotten to eat. I got sucked into a video game, I guess. I forget what it was. And, like, I forgot that it was ice cream that I was eating and shoved a whole gob into my mouth. And
why does everything hurt?
You don't do that.
I don't think I've ever, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because I've had too much brain freeze, but I don't recall ever having a case of brain freeze, ever, with anything cold.
Well, you're lucky because it's not a pleasant experience. I'm not sure what causes it. There's probably some really interesting scientific explanation, but, you know, the bottom line is ice cream is suffering. And
I love this back and forth.
That was a great bit. Yeah, that's not just lesson there, yeah.
It makes, yeah, that's the brain freeze affecting Sonic. He thinks his life is a video game now.
Sometimes a spinning sign that has an exclamation point, and it's like, what does that mean?
Maybe Sonic has gamer powers. Maybe that's what's going on here.
I don't want to know what gamer powers.
Okay, you know, I don't know where the source comes from, but it's this trope in fan fiction where the character gains the ability to live life like a video game. So they start seeing game menus, they start seeing their own abilities laid out before them in terms of game stats and skill lists.
So they just have like a perpetual VR headset attached at all times.
It's just a standard isekai.
Yeah, it's basically that. And like there are gamer power fanfics in every fandom as far as I know, unless it's something like The Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings fanfiction section does nothing fun. It's nothing but people mixing up the movies and the books for some reason because they're not sure which comes from which. You would think that people who were dedicated enough to write Lord of the Rings fan fiction would know the difference, but apparently they just want Gimli to be comic relief. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, so this is the scene where Eggman flat out refuses to work with Sonic, and you know, I like the scene because it's like, okay, out of the whole laundry list of references this game makes to previous entries in the series, this is the one that I would say 100% works because it's a valid point. Why won't you work with Sonic? You've done it before. It worked out perfectly.
I personally would have swapped out the Neo Metal reference with like Gemroll from Sonic Advance 3 because unless I'm mistaken, Eggman didn't do shit to help with Neo Metal Sonic. he was stuck inside of a rural ball game, and that he just exists to say, "Yeah, he's combined all of your data with the power of chaos, and can't do anything about it now." And everyone pulls out the emeralds, and Supersonic does a supersonic thing. Eggman had nothing to do with it.
Well, I think Sage's understanding of that incident might be a bit skewed by Eggman's bias.
No, she's reading it off Wikipedia.
Well, I mean, I doubt Eggman's personal records of the incident include the part where he did fuck all to help the problem.
I saved the day. Sonic won't tell you that,
but like, okay, so it would have made more sense to reference Gemroll, but at the same time, like,
Who played Sonic Advance 3 besides us nerds?
Oh, like that would stop them.
Well, I mean, that's a reference that basically no one would
This game
get.
references riders. Everything's fair game.
Well, more people know Riders than they know Sonic Advance 3, unfortunately.
You think so? Well, okay, I would say the Advanced series. I would lump them all together under
Well,
that
I
umbrella,
mean,
not just one
more
game.
people know the general story of Riders than know the last 5 minutes of Advance 3.
Debatable.
Plenty
debatable.
of people have played Advance 3, but not many of us have
Squid.
actually bothered to beat it.
You just fucking smacked him in the face. I didn't know you could do that.
Yep.
Yeah, you're a jerk. I didn't know you could just get up in his business like that and just give him a Three Stooges slap.
Okay. So, I'm not sure why I decided to fight this guy.
Because it was the way he gave you a squid jump scare. It's like he took that personally.
It's less annoying than fighting the shark, but not by much.
Everything's less annoying than fighting the shark, though. I think the only other enemy that comes close is probably what was the dive bomb one? The one that sends you high up into the air.
Strider.
Well, I wasn't sure if it was Spider or Strider. I won't say no. Strider was the one with the grind rails.
Yeah.
On the very, very rare occasion that squid shoots his energy balls at you when you're at close range like that, it is almost impossible to avoid them.
Yeah, even with a well-timed double jump, you barely just make over that shit. You okay, Sonic? It's like the floor right there anymore, dude.
Looney Tunes it. As long as I don't look down,
Yeah.
the floor's still there.
Absolutely not. Although your power and defense now is at a point where you are effortlessly taking these things down, no problem.
Yeah. I'm like almost maxed out. Jesus Christ. The counter stance. I'm not really sure why, but they didn't limit how long you can hold it. So you can just stay in the air for as long as you want.
Yeah, it's really weird.
It honestly feels like an oversight than anything.
I don't know. It's kind of like they lumped in together like Sonic's posture for normal and supersonic, because supersonic can also hang in parry like that, but it makes more sense for him to be in the air as supersonic. But it's also regular Sonic can do it too. Oh, fuck this bridge.
Speaking of supersonic, something that I didn't know while I was recording this and forgot to mention at the time, but there is evidence that the drift was in the game at one point, and that is the fact that as supersonic in the first boss only, you still have the drift. It's really weird. It's just left over.
Wait, you just dead ass have the drift?
Yeah, Supersonic's controls in the first boss against Giganto includes the Sonic Unleashed drift.
Wow, and how did you come to this?
Weird. Okay, I'm just gonna assume it was leftover they forgot to take out.
Yeah, that's pretty much what everyone says.
Running away or standing on the sidelines. You're always rescuing me when all I do
Tails, you're so wrapped up in your own problems, you don't notice that Sonic is falling apart here.
I've always been player 2, but lately I've been feeling like number 2.
Stop taking them from blowing up Station Square, huh?
Oof, fucking SA1 jump scare.
Now you see, that was a flashback that worked.
Yeah, because it was relevant.
And at
Well-
least they called out that Tails' characterization has been wildly inconsistent.
I like how they're so ashamed of Dreamcast graphics so that they pasted over this sort of paint-like filter so that it looks like it's a painting instead of Dreamcast graphics.
Well, to be fair, if it was like wholesale just Dreamcast graphics, like the graphical disparity would have been really fucking obnoxious.
Not as obnoxious as Knuckles laughing on Angel Island, though.
No, wait a minute. No, I know exactly why I did it. Because if it wasn't like the OG Dreamcast graphics, folks would be throwing a tizzy. It's like, they used the fucking DX filter. Why'd they do that?
Okay, so, like, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, like, serious talk, if a video game flashes back to an older video game and the graphics don't match. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be as blatant as Metal Gear Solid 4 was about it, but...
I like that about it, though. Like the whole Shadow Moses sequence of 4, including the PS1 bit in the beginning. I love that part.
Well, I love everything about that part except the fact that they forgot to include gameplay on that island.
It's Metal Gear, though. You can say that for a lot of them.
Well, Metal Gear Solid 4, it's the most egregious because all the good gameplay in the game is concentrated in the first 2 acts, and then everything becomes really railroady and
Movies.
very movie.
it's like, you could have broken it up with some gameplay here and there. And it's especially frustrating because when Metal Gear Solid 4's gameplay is at center stage, it's probably the best gameplay in the series. Like,
I would argue 5 is, but 5 has its own set of problems.
when 5 is, being a game, it is really good, yes.
Well, no, but you see, but that's the thing though. That game is mostly a game. It's just that its story is bad.
And it goes on for way too long.
It goes on for way too long. Yes.
It's kind of like the problem with Metal Gear Solid 5 is that it doesn't know how to do an open world. It treats its open world with less grace than Skyrim. And Skyrim was already a bit of an issue, already had issues in that regard because it didn't know how to populate its open world with enough stuff to make exploring it worthwhile.
Oh, you barely made that.
Yeah. That particular skydiving sequence is surprisingly
Difficult.
yeah. It's surprisingly tight. It's like the only one of these story challenges that actually is kind of challenging. Go figure, it's the last one.
So now that the bridge is lowered, the invisible wall disappears.
Yeah.
What I think is the more important thing about this cutscene. Because you can get to the top of this bridge at any point in time when you first enter this island. However, you cannot make it to the other island because there's an invisible wall blocking the pathway. And I really wish there was a better way they could have kept you away from that island than something as arbitrary as an invisible wall. Because I think that should be the absolute last resort for anything to bar your pathway.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how they make a point to explain like the Chaos Emeralds get sucked into these power units by the island because the island was built to use Chaos Emerald power, and then they just fucking throw half the Chaos Emeralds on any given island into these missions that have nothing to do with the Chaos Emeralds, and they just spring out of the air when you grab them. And what is it with the frickin' geometric crop symbols in the sky?
It belongs to the ancients. It's just, I don't think it's ever elaborated on what it means.
Batman, help us.
That's not a bat.
Not
That's a
yet.
sea otter.
Oh, is that what you got out of it?
No, I'm not.
I got more like a racing course.
It's just I don't know what those symbols are. They remind me of something from some game or other, but
I mean, the ancients are aliens. Maybe we could be just overthinking it. It might as well just be crop signals. Yeah, could be crop signs.
Well, I mean, I feel like I've seen symbols like that in another game. I'm just not. You know what it reminds me of now? It just hit me. Star Wars language. The letters that you see sometimes in the background in Star Wars movies and games. There is a sort of decodable language in there somewhere, but like
just one. I would think the wide world of Star Wars would have multiple languages.
Oh yeah, but George Lucas wasn't Tolkien.
Yeah.
Look. When you play Knights of the Old Republic, you might think that the characters are actually speaking a language when they speak alien languages at you. But the truth is, they just have like 3 or 4 audio clips of the same alien language that they play on loop at random, regardless of what the characters are actually saying. So yeah, it ain't Tolkien. It's bullshit. I'm pretty sure that when Hayden Christensen was doing the scene with Watto in episode 1 where they were talking Huttese at each other, Hayden Christensen was just making it up as he went along, and Watto was speaking some bastardized form of Spanish or something. Surprisingly, Hayden Christensen did a really good job of making up an alien language there. Yeah, like, why did I say episode 1? I meant episode 2. Episode 1 was Kid Anakin. Ugh.
Yeah. Oh wait, wasn't Kid Anakin in episode 1 also talking an alien language?
Well,
too?
yeah, but I was talking specific.
He was talking to Watto and Sebulba specifically.
Yeah,
too.
but I'm not sure what they had him do. I just
Yeah.
remember this factoid had to do specifically with Hayden Christensen. It's notable because he did a really good job of making it up as he went along. But like, yeah, people don't give Hayden Christensen enough credit as Anakin Skywalker. Ah, well.
Did you watch the Obi-Wan spinoff?
Yeah. And you know, unsurprisingly, now that he has a better director, he did a lot better. That scene is the best thing in the entire
You're talking about like the last scene, like against Obi-Wan and Darth Vader.
Well, there's that too, but I'm talking about the flashback where Obi-Wan and Anakin are
Obi-Wan and Anakin 30 years after he fucking filmed episode 2. That's the other thing. Like that series, as much of a cash cow that franchise has become, they couldn't get better DHing for that flashback because Hayden Christensen clearly looks 20 years older than he did in episode 2.
Yeah, he does, but you know,
it was still good. It was still a good scene.
It was a great scin. It was like one of the best scenes in the entire show, and like. Holy shit. Anakin's personality came out a lot better in that one scene than it did in the entirety of episodes 2 and 3. But like, man, I need to watch that series again. This is like one of the cool things about my current phone plan is that it comes with Disney Plus just as a bonus, and so I can just watch the Star Wars stuff whenever I want.
I am terribly behind on all the Star Wars stuff. Like there was a bit of burnout after the Disney trilogy that I was very selective of what I decided to watch.
Oh yeah, I get you.
I've been hearing great things about Andor.
I haven't watched that yet.
I
haven't watched that yet.
Yeah, neither have I. I've been hearing nothing but fantastic things about it.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, Disney kind of like fumbled the ball a lot with the sequel trilogy. You know, promising start, interesting if controversial middle, terrible end. But like the streaming series have been, you know, nothing but home runs. And that's pretty impressive. Granted, it probably has something to do with the fact that the streaming series are all based around the post-original trilogy and early original trilogy timelines, where there's a lot of interesting lore to explore.
Yeah.
Whereas their sequel trilogy, they've kind of crafted a really uninteresting period of time for themselves to work off of there. Where everything is just, wow, history doesn't repeat, but it sure does rhyme. Wink. It probably would have helped if they had, you know, used actual prop lightsabers during the lightsaber duels in Rise of Skywalker a little, because like for the longest time I wasn't sure what it was about those lightsaber duels that wasn't working for me, and it turns out that instead of actually doing a lightsaber duel with prop sabers and all, they just had the actors wave their arms at each other and CGI'd in the actual lightsabers. I don't know if like...
So what, they were just swinging hilts?
Yeah. I don't know if like Daisy Ridley couldn't do the lightsaber duels the way the other actors could or what, but that was what they ended up doing, and it was awful. And you can multiple times see the lightsabers just passing through each other if you watch the scene carefully. It's awful.
I was so enamored by the lightsaber colors actually mixing in the lighting that I didn't notice that there was no lightsabers in the first one.
That's the other giveaway, because in that scene the lightsabers don't mix with the lighting. They don't have the glowing prop. They don't have the glowing prop sabers is what does that. They have like actual glowing lightsaber props that they use for the scenes, and they use them in the Obi-Wan series. They use them in episode 6, 7 rather. I think they might use them in episode 7, in episode 8. I'm mixing up my numbers here, but they definitely don't use them in the duel in episode 9. And it's just bleh. Man, I still consider that movie a bit of a guilty pleasure, but it's like, yeah, it's really weak, and it gets weaker the more I learn about it.
The Dark Knight Rises for me specifically. I know it's not Star Wars at all, but it's like everyone's got those movies that they were really looking forward to watching for whatever reason, and then you realize after the first one, it was like, man, this just keeps falling apart the more I come back to it.
That's kind of kind of an apt comparison. Although I would argue that The Dark Knight Rises at least has more, like, cinematic ambition going for it. Like, it's trying to be a good movie.
It has to follow up The Dark Knight. I think it's ultimately its biggest problem.
I think ultimately its biggest problem was that, yeah, it has to follow up The Dark Knight. The problem is that The Dark Knight had its own direction that it was clearly heading, and The Dark Knight Rises didn't go that way, like at all. And
actually, now that I think about it, it's pretty similar to the sequel trilogy in Star Wars, because you got the first movie, right? With the League of Shadows and Ra's al Ghul, and then you have the second movie with the Joker and such. It was like, you know, it's different spell on it, but it was better for it because it existed in its own sort of thing. And then the third movie, because they lost their lead actor for the Joker, the second movie is like, oh fuck it, we'll just make a sequel to the first movie.
you know,
you see what I'm getting at? Because they bring back the League of Shadows stuff for the third movie, which will make it more appropriately a sequel to Batman Begins and not so much The Dark Knight.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The issue there is that, like, I could see them bringing back the League of Shadows, like, sensibly, even before they couldn't follow up on the Joker anymore. But at the same time, you know, I'm really mixed on that. It's just that the original source material has Talia al Ghul, and you know, that always left a thread that they could pick up the League of Shadows from. But it did really seem like from The Dark Knight onward they were planning to lean into the criminality of Gotham rather than the frickin' ancient assassin organization from across the ocean. Yeah. Okay.
I think if Batman Begins was made like a decade later, it would have been the Court of Owls and not so much the League of Assassins. The League of Shadows, or where the fuck it is.
That would make more sense, yeah. It's also just really weird that they decided to mix Bane with the League of Shadows, of all things.
That I never understood, yeah.
It was like, you know, the Joker at least resembles his original source material. The League of Shadows at least resembles the original source material. They kind of cut out the immortality aspect, but, you know, understandable.
No, they ground it in a way that, you know, I didn't mind that bit of it.
Well, yeah, it was a bit like Kilgrave and the Jessica Jones show. They cut out a lot of stuff that had a lot of extended lore attached to it, and conveniently that also allowed them to cut away from the X-Men origins of Kilgrave. But, like, they also made the character more like he fit in a realistic universe. So that worked. But like, why Bane? Bane is from a completely different part of the planet and has nothing to do with the League of Shadows. Why would you connect those two things?
As far as we're aware, anyway, I can't keep up with all the comic books.
It's like, you know, even the frickin' Batman and Robin version of Bane bears more resemblance to his comic book form. And that version was terrible.
It did give us Tom Hardy's Bane voice, though, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, true enough.
Oh, I mean, the actor did what he could. He did better with Bane's voice than Batman did with Batman's, so it's like, you know, that's just the weirdest fucking part of The Dark Knight, is that for all that movie's artistry, it gave us that Batman voice. Oh no. Abort.
You were pulling off some sick fucking maneuvers there, and then he just kind of got lost in the sauce.
I really misjudged the distance there.
Just pulled a Homer Simpson in the Springfield Gorge there a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of only started really experimenting with rail launching part way through this recording, so you're gonna see me pull off some cool rail launches, and then you're gonna see me wipe out awfully. because I have no idea what kind of maximum distance I can pull off this way.
We're on the cusp of getting our first DLC
At the time
for
of this
Frontiers.
recording,
At the time of this recording.
Did they announce it?
No, it's just that we're getting close to
when they said it would be.
When they said it was going to be, yeah. Yeah, at the time of this recording, it's early March.
Oh.
And like around like DLC 2 mentioned something about Sonic's birthday, so that's June. So I would assume Wave 1 would have to be either
Spring.
April or May. Yeah.
Well, the first wave was kind of just like basic updates, like camera mode and stuff, right?
I believe so. I'll have to take a look at the roadmap again. I'm wondering though if
Right.
it'll just come with hot fixes for, well, not hot fixes, but just general fixes for folks' feedback and shit.
I mean, I
Regards to,
imagine
like-
so.
I wouldn't be surprised. That would be the first thing to work on.